Yeah, my name is Jerell John. I go by Rel to a lot of folks in the game industry. Went to Full Sail University. By trade, I'm what you would probably call a camera artist, but under that goes by a ton of different hats.
Right,
Most
right.
cases be cinematic artist, other cases be capture artist, other cases media artist, straight up camera artist. But 3D generalist, aficionado, I would to call myself now because I've been doing this since I was about 17. 34 now, so I got a long time underneath my belt with it. But yeah, went to Full Sail University for computer animation. I started off originally trying to get into the animation industry. When I left school, it was more so I was always a 3D modeler, but I had to become a generalist to get work. So I interned at my first internship was at this motion capture studio here in New York. Then left there, went to an animation studio, interning there, left, ended up at one of my first big real industry internships, Brainstorm Digital. I was there. Oh, what was I doing? Yeah, I was primarily doing all their like file management system stuff
Okay.
and a couple of movies and TV shows. Spartacus, Blood and Bone, Boardwalk Empire, I think. Sandra Bullock's movie, The Heat, a couple of other stuff. Got my first film credit because of a movie called The Immigrants, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, after that, I bounced around. Yeah, I don't want to keep interning. I don't want to be in post production.
Right.
I want to use my degree for what I want to do. Was doing a couple of freelance gigs, 3D printing stuff in the early days before it got too mainstream. A ton of independent animation work and like early game cleanup work, using my modeling experiences to help people out with their mobile games. A couple of independent movie intros. Once I started getting like a little bit of notoriety, ended up at a engineering company as a motion capture producer here in New York. I was stationed out in Met Stadium for about 6 months out the year, just capture mocap data, like setting up clients, like out of the players pen. Then I was just, I don't want to, like, they offered me a full-time job, but I was just, I don't want to do this. So I want to use my degree. It's a good paying job, but
Yeah.
like I want to be at work and feel happy what I'm making. So I took some time off, and then one of my friends from college, David Vega, he moved to New York, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a job at Rockstar. If you want to get in here, just let me know."
Wow.
Ended up taking him up on the offer because I didn't have anything going on around the time, and ended up at Rockstar for a couple of years. But there was a brief period where I had to take a break. Ended up becoming a college professor after meeting some folks at Play NYC in the early days. Taught at New York Film Academy for VR advanced animation, left there and went back to Rockstar, where I got my credit on Red Dead Redemption 2. Was working on stuff with GTA 5. Left there 2019. Ended up going into getting into MLB, marketing stuff for them for their games, Baseball 2021, the Home Run Derby, their mobile game, and a couple other independent projects. So I'm just working at Unity, and that was my second little foot in the water, game industry.
Right.
But when the pandemic was rolling around, everybody had to do the work from home thing. I transitioned out from MLB to Microsoft Turn 10 for a little bit, doing stuff for Forza Motorsports. Ended up at Blizzard Entertainment, and it's probably one of my favorite game industry jobs I've ever had because my team and my manager are so supportive. Left there last November, and I've been not necessarily freelance, been working on my own stuff since.
Okay. I see the background. You got the Dragon Ball Z back there. You got see what else can I see back there? I see an old Game Boy Color, it looks like back there.
Yeah.
You got some classics up there. Dragon Ball Z is one of my all-time, obviously. So I'm assuming you said it kind of started when you were younger. Kind of what were you into? Obviously Dragon Ball Z. Like what other stuff were you into?
Oh man, it did start when I was younger. Like I spent majority of my childhood with my grandmother and my brother. My grandmother would sit down and watch shows with us. Like for me, it was like Amazing Spider-Man from the 1995 run, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider. I got a couple Kamen Riders up there too. Like I was watching Dragon Ball with my brother, like in the early mornings with Sailor Moon when it started off back then. Like Star Trek, Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like almost anything that's like nerd related. I was a part. Like it developed to make me who I am right now. I got a Kamen Rider shirt on.
I was all about the anime and stuff when I was younger too. So some people were collecting Yu-Gi-Oh, some people were collecting Pokemon, so like all of that stuff kind of ties into it. So kind of since you kind of have that sort of perspective, like how do you see the industry now as compared to like when you were first trying to come in? You think that all of these enhancements and like technology and stuff like that, you think, where do you see it going? Like what, as far as like you fit into it, like how much different is it now than it was like when you were kind of getting your degree and kind of learning about it?
So that's a good question. I'm in a mental state where I think the game industry needs like a massive like collapse structuring. I want to target off like on the early days of the game industry. So like 80s to early 90s, there was a crash that happened on because there were so many people making all these games. The industry got way too like commercialized and like broke down on itself. Like to this day, fun fact, there's actually a pit out in the Nevada desert, old copies of the ET game. But it was that bad. They started taking a ton of those like old Nintendo products, Atari, and started dumping them in the pit because nobody would buy them. They're bad. And then when we had that restructuring in the 90s, where we had like a Super Nintendo, Genesis, and things gradually picking up, it was transitioning into like a bit of a renaissance period where we were getting tech enhancements and people were allowed to start experimenting with like ideas. Look at the refinement of Mario. My first Super Mario game was like Super Mario World 2. Around that time, I was playing like Sonic with my brother. Those are our two big games. Mario, Sonic. But my favorite gaming era was back when I was in high school. So about like 2000, I want to say about 2004, 2007, 8. There was a period in there where we had the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, where we were getting so many like broad games, especially in the game with the GameCube. You have Capcom putting out all these like killer products like Custom Robo, Gotcha Force, Beautiful Joe. The game industry itself is losing that point. All the monetization stuff, live service, and it's become such a cash grab. It's so disheartening, especially with all these layoffs that are going on. You see things like take for example Rocksteady with the Suicide Squad. You could and the co-founders for Rocksteady left. So behind the scenes, you could tell that this product that they're making isn't something that they're passionate about, to the point where that like a studio that they created, they gotta go. And it doesn't, looking at executives, because I have to target executives with these ideals that are being put out right now, where it's just to churn out money, not about actually making good stories these days. And I'm always a gamer first, and I have to I always gotta put that down, because I have my Game Boy Color there. One of my favorite games that I played growing up was Pokemon Gold and Silver. Until this day, I still play Pokemon. A lot of companies don't want to create good products for the right reasons. It's about a game that is like as fast as you can in most states, and a lot of those times these games are coming out buggy. They'll put a patch out later just to fix it. A lot of companies are doing this live service stuff. All these live service games are just coming out like unfinished and crashing because they're fighting for people's time. When me personally, I think that games need to be treated like when you watch a movie, read a book. Like reading, you can pick up a good book, finish it, and then you'll start thinking, want to think back and go through it, see what was said. And same thing with movies. You rewatch a movie over and over again, seeing different things. How the director was trying to portray this, how an actor was conveyed. So it's the same principle. Like if you look at the old school Mass Effect games, you can see a lot of good principles of just trying to make a finished product. But a lot of what's going on now in the game industry, because it's become too unstructured with all the layoffs, and that's people that have to now fight to look for work. I did have a running theory that years ago, I think it was 2019, 2020, that a collapse like this needs to happen, to the point where we get more indie studios come in and start pushing out better ideas. That's going to be churned over and over again. Because just prime example, Overwatch was coming out. Everybody was competing for the next big hero. Their earliest competitor, Battleborn, was doing okay for a little bit, but they couldn't keep up with the art style of Overwatch, and just pure marketing killed them. And with Watch, I think they had a competitor in Paragon, and the game that came out with that High Res put out, another hero shooter. It's saturated market. When PUBG came out, everybody was trying to get on the PUBG bandwagon with survival shooters, to the point where Fortnite came out. Kind of did it better because it had a better art style to attract in more people, and the victor goes to the spoils of that, because Epic took it over and ran with it to the point where they don't need to really put out any other game. They just have Fortnite to carry them through. And now it's become a cultural thing. Like they got collaborations with almost every studio, anime, music artist. Like I don't even play it, but I'll check up on views of Twitch streams of it like every now and then just to see what's going on. My brother started playing it, and I saw him get excited because he saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The indie scene is gonna be the next big landscape with these layoffs happening.
And the game industry makes so much money, and so that's why you see all of these games costing hundreds of millions of dollars to create now. You know, the money's there, but like people are still getting laid off. The games aren't as polished, so like something's got to give, you know, at some point.
And that's where it comes down to, because like a lot of times, like since I got in the game industry like about like 2016, 2017-ish, everybody was talking about, oh, how come there's no unions in the game industry? I think Ubisoft might be the only studio to my knowledge that actually has like a actual union for their employees. Two indie studios got established. I think some are former EA devs at one's called Bullet Farm. Just immediately within those two periods, like where all these mass layoffs are coming off, got established, and there's going to be more to happen here. It's necessary for us as an industry to evolve and like establish some groundwork, because just prime example, when you have like a company like Xbox, Microsoft buying up all these smaller like independent titles to the point where they couldn't really do anything. They had how many exclusive ship titles within the past like 3-4 years that did not do well because the studios themselves did not have proper infrastructure to generate good games. Bethesda, as much as I love the Elder Scrolls game, Starfield came out in such a buggy mess. Good for people, but in terms of the immersion of the game, it didn't work. Redfall, top tier developer worked on that. Came out in such a terrible state because it was meant to be a live service monetized game, to the point where money was overlooking on refinement for narrative and infrastructure. It's going to keep happening. What was going on? Sony had about like six live service games in development. When you have those live service games, you're always going to be competing with time. It's the same thing. Like you have people who play Call of Duty, people who play Valorant. You have people who play, some people who still play Titanfall, and Titanfall just get for like $10 now. Destiny to a heavy regard. And even with a company as like as big as fan that I am of Bungie, with their stories, it's happening too long. And they had a review by Sony Entertainment International. The president came in and was very impressed with the staff that was there, saying that everyone has a lot of good ideas and everyone's working hard and passionate on things that they love. But when it came down to upper management, he said that they were burning through finances way too much. So with things that they aren't leveraging their talent too well, because before their layoffs, they had people there that were asking for all the stuff that us as players have been needing and dying for, and it's just been happening too late. A lot of this infrastructure things that they have in there right now, loadouts for Destiny, has been done by websites for the past couple of years, where you have a click of a button, immediately sends it over to the game administration information. So structurally, things need to get done with. Where I gotta touch back on Suicide Squad. When that came out, I'm a huge comic book lover. I'm a huge Rocksteady fan. Arkham City, one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be a problem. I still picked the game up because I love the story of what was going on. Hands down to them, they did a great job. Personally, they did a great job with the animations. Facial animation, very top tier. The characters people are talking about how they're kind of cheesy, but it's a Suicide Squad. But the biggest problem that I had with it was the immersion factor. A guy named King Shark. Why am I using a heavy machine gun and I gotta hop building to building? Gameplay wise, that doesn't feel me. I almost had with Marvel Avengers when it came out a couple years ago, where it was no real visual thing to your characters as you play the game. It was always just, you get some cosmetics and you can adjust your gear, but you can't really see it. It kind of broke the immersion for you. There are ways around it. Shout out to Crystal Dynamics. They actually told a good story through the base game, and even with the Black Panther expansion that they put out for Avengers. But because of the development costs of live service, it was not going to survive. Back to the days of just putting out a game and just having basic player in there, and then you can still generate revenue from unit sales. Whether whether the game servers need to be stayed up, you can do other things. I have no, but you need to have a faith in order to do all that.
Yeah, getting a little lag. What is your take on, you went to Full Sail? Now a lot of these colleges and major universities are starting to offer esports degrees, different, animation degrees that kind of weren't really the norm, maybe a decade ago. Kind of where do you see it going as far as the education side? Do you think that there is more need for more education in the field? Do you think it's more of just a collective, as far as like the industry, as far as, knowing the pitfalls and the dangers of the industry and where we need to get better? Like, do you think it's an educational thing, or you just think it's more of we just need to not focus on the money as much?
You're gonna need to focus on the money no matter what, because running anything takes money. But in terms of education, I've been like remotely 50-50 on it, because sometimes I feel like you don't really need the education behind it, because I'm a New Yorker. I grew up around like a ton of people who are like some of the apex of the fighting game community over here. Like, we play Smash Brothers, Tekken, Street Fighter, and like any other game under the sun. And some of the most notable FGC players that I've met and come to like know as like friends, like Dykes Mendoza. He's a talented gamer and like a musician, and he does like a wonderful job, even like doing consulting work for a couple of companies. He's a very talented cat. And like him as like a good example is like, he worked his way with his passion and got where he is today. So, and I've gone to people who gone to school with people at Full Sail who like study the principles of like game development alongside of me, like on film animation, and are now like big time streamers. Still goes hand in hand to it. So it's like it depends on the individual and the amount of drive that you have with it. Because for me to say like, oh, you don't need school is like, well, it's ridiculous, because I'm an educator too.
Yeah.
But you need some level of principle, whether it's like through books or through real world experience. So either way, you're getting that. Some people might not be good with getting like knowledge from real world experience, and some people do better with books.
I mean, you can definitely do it. We got the inventions of YouTube and Chat GPT and everything else. I mean, you can basically create your own study course at this point. But kind of just to kind of wrap up a little bit, kind of what are you sort of working on here, like in the nearest future? Like, you got some things you're looking forward to? What the future look like for you kind of here in the next, year, a couple years or so?
For me personally, my current goal is I'm trying to start my own game studio, like get that off the ground. I'm already working with some talented people to get it in fruition. I spent majority of last year just doing a ton of research, traveling to Japan. Like, I went to Tokyo Game Show to look for some investors and do more outreaches with people over there. Succeeded at it. So for me, I'm trying to get my game going and get the refinement for the foundation, so that the gameplay is like really, really good, and get my the story that I want to tell, like, to everybody. Because I want to go back to narrative games. I don't want to really push too much on live service stuff, or never get to that point. But I just want to make a good story for the gamers and bring us back to like those old days that I fell in love with.
If you're working on some stuff that's, top secret, you ain't got to give that away, but like, just kind of give us an idea as far as like kind of what's coming up, and just kind of plug yourself, kind of give all of the socials, handles, links, and wherever else you would like to for everybody to check you out at.
Yeah, you can hit me up on Instagram at kmn.rdr. If you can decipher where that name came from, cash at me $5. Yeah, I'm on Twitter at kmn.rdr. LinkedIn, you can hit me up, Jerell John. Contact me any way you see fit. But yeah, like I said before, I'm getting my studio off the ground.
You got a name for the studio?
I have to keep it secret right now because I have to get it established.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.